Phew! Now that was a mouthful. Now that we went over the pros and cons of the Jungle Movie, it's time to go over the aftermath of the movie's release. First off, let's clear the air and talk about what many people have been debating on for quite a while. The ratings.
There have been so many videos and articles discussing how Hey Arnold the Jungle Movie was a failure in the views and the ratings. Some people blame the air date because the Jungle Movie aired around Thanksgiving holiday, so they couldn't schedule it to see it because they were spending time with their families. Some people blame the Jungle Movie airing on the main channel as opposed to airing on Nick Splat, also now known as Nick Rewind, since the channel was one promoting Hey Arnold the most with the marathon of showing every episode of the series, and Hey Arnold the Jungle Movie to get people caught up. Others blame Nickelodeon for not promoting the Jungle Movie as much as the Loud House or Henry Danger / Game Shakers crossover episode. According to official ratings, Nickelodeon had the total of 1.3 million people watching, with the most of the viewers being from the 18 to 49-year-old demographic. In addition, Nick at Night aired the Jungle Movie 1 hour later, generating 1.1 million people, again with the most of them being in the 18 to 49 demographic.
When looking at the list of the top 10 most viewed programs, The Jungle Movie at Nick at Night was ranked number 9, beating Teen Titans Go's The Self-Indulgent 200th Episode Spectacular, and Nickelodeon was ranked at number 6, beating The Loud House's The Crying Dame / Anti-Social Episode. Some of the highest viewed programs were football games and a Hallmark Christmas movie, which is to be expected. But surprisingly, the most viewed program on that day was Gold Rush, a Discovery Channel series about people looking for gold. Okay then. So overall, the Jungle Movie did pretty good in the ratings, despite the circumstances that it aired on the main channel, where kids 6 through 11 would be tuning into, and that they had no idea what Hey Arnold was. But there was no showcase of the previous episodes to get them prepared. Even for Nick at Night, no episodes of Hey Arnold premiered, which is strange considering that Nick at Night has started catering to millennials as early as 2008, when their median ages were ranging from 17 to 22 due to showcasing reruns of 90s and 2000s sitcoms such as Friends, Full House, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and The George Lopez Show. This is the current demographic of Nick at Night according to the website National Media Spots. It was ripe for showing Hey Arnold there. So overall, it wasn't the massive failure that some people made it out to be. On the contrary, it did pretty well. I think that had it shown on Nick Rewind, or if the promotion on Nickelodeon or Nick at Night was given the same treatment as Nick Rewind, it would have done a lot better. Nick Rewind had done the heavy work with the promotion and didn't get the reward at the end. Their older siblings did, which is a shame.
Many people seem to overlook that the Jungle Movie was already posted on Nick.com and the Nick app hours before it aired on TV. I take that eager fans who didn't want to wait any longer to see the movie they've been wanting to see for almost 15 years chose to watch it online instead. And I think that was a huge opportunity lost for Nickelodeon because they had failed to realize that their younger audience weren't going to gravitate towards Hey Arnold compared to the audience that grew up with the show back in the late 90s to the early 2000s. Nickelodeon should have posted the Jungle Movie on a streaming service on its premiere date. Over the past few years, there have been many reports from news articles talking about how millennials and even Gen Zers have been cutting their cable providers in favor of streaming services, especially in 2020 due to the quote-unquote Backstreet Boys reunion tour. Due to the early access of hundreds of shows and movies costing much less on cable and exclusive content that I can't get anywhere else, people don't want to rely on companies like Comcast to get their entertainment. They want companies like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, and many others knowing they're more reliable with their content. Posting the Jungle Movie on the Nick.com website and the app isn't enough. A more mainstream site would have been a better choice in regards to marketing and viewership. I'm sure adults only went to Nick.com on their own volition to watch the Jungle Movie. There's little to no reason why they would go there otherwise. The Nick.com that the adults knew about when they were kids is nowhere near the same as Nick.com is now. Nickelodeon should have known about that, but they found out too little too late. The Jungle Movie would have reruns on the following day, November 25th and December 1st, for those who missed it. Days after the premiere, it was posted on iTunes, Amazon, and YouTube for a few dollars. On the 18th of February of 2018, it was released on DVD. As of the making of this video, the Jungle Movie is no longer available on Nick.com website or on the Nick app.
But if you think that's over, oh no, we're just getting started. Now let's talk about the international air dates. The Jungle Movie's premiere air dates were delayed in multiple countries until a few months after it aired in America. For Canada, the Jungle Movie premiered on January 5th, 2018 on YTV.
January 5th.
There's a boat coming.
This is no ordinary field trip.
We're literally up the river without a stinking paddle.
It's the adventure of a lifetime.
I'm okay.
Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie. January 5th on YTV.
At Germany, it aired on February 9, 2018, according to Viacom's German website. Australia aired The Jungle Movie in 30 selected Hoyt's movie theaters on February 10, 2018, with their and New Zealand's TV airings being less than a month later on March 2, 2018.
Arnold's never left his neighborhood, but this March, that's all gonna change.
I have to know. Where are my parents? We're up the river without a stinking paddle.
Catch Arnold and his crew in Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie, coming soon to Nick.
The other countries met a similar fate, having to wait for months to see The Jungle Movie.
So in regards to the international air dates, yeah, I could probably imagine a lot of people were not very happy that the United States of America got this way before everybody else did. And I guess some of it can be understandable. I guess there was linguistic issues, and I guess there was also issues in regards to airing on television in regards to different laws. But in regards to that, they should have really become prepared for this, really. I mean, there was a lot of Canadian fans that I knew that were not very happy with the fact that Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie was going to be airing on in America first before everybody else did. Even myself was pretty disappointed, and I've even made a trip to the United States of America in order to actually go see it myself. So in regards to its variation on giving it out internationally, I think Nickelodeon should definitely have thought about that one way better than they did.
Due to the massive delays of The Jungle Movie airing in other countries, if the international Hey Arnold fans didn't travel to America like Aaron did, or pirate the movie before its official release, then they had to read reviews from critics and fans about their thoughts on it. Some were praising the film, while others were disappointed with its outcome. Some people pointed out that there was something missing in The Jungle Movie. Whether that the wacky moments offset the purists who appreciated Hey Arnold's slow pace, or the adventurous moments in San Lorenzo lacked tension, suspense, and exhilaration, I'm sure that fans' expectations for The Jungle Movie became a little bit low afterwards, and the excitement for its release had died down a bit, killing any momentum that it desperately needed to be a success. It also didn't help much that Rocko's Modern Life started Cling and Invader Zim Enter the Florpus were the next TV movies to be airing on Nickelodeon. However, those movies have been delayed with no new information on a release date. Even Joe Murray and Jonan Vasquez, the creators of Rocko and Zim respectively, had no idea either. Many had put the blame on the Jungle Movie's failure, that it didn't gain the audience Nickelodeon needed to be what they would call a success.
I'm not going to lie here, yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking when we found out that once Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie happened the way it did, that Rocko's Modern Life started clinging and Zim all of a sudden kind of disappeared off the schedules. Was a little bit concerning that Nickelodeon had lost faith in its own products. But then all of a sudden we came to Netflix, and then we got to enjoy Rocko's Modern Life and Invader Zim. As discussed before, I think if the Jungle Movie had gone in the same direction as Rocko's Modern Life and Invader Zim, I think probably the Nickelodeon would have realized very quickly that this was the place to put stuff. I mean, look at the re-release of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I would say that was incredibly successful and was top trending in the top 10 Netflix releases for a very significant amount of time. So whether Hey Arnold could have met to that, I'm not entirely sure. But seeing this is the way how things are played out, unfortunately, it'll be one of those questions that we'll never really know the answer to.
So, what now? The fans had already gotten The Jungle Movie. Their hard work for their petitions and their social media shout-outs and their hashtags and their fan letters were able to get them what they wanted. So do you think they just packed it in and they were just done and appreciating with what they got? Oh no. This was just the beginning for them. Now we're going to be talking about the fight for a season 6.
Craig even stated that he was hoping that the Jungle Movie would be the kickstart for the 6th season of Hey Arnold. In an interview with Reddit on April 2018, Craig made this statement: "Okay, everyone, when you see a question for will there be a season 6, refer to the asker to this. I want to do a season 6. My crew wants to do a season 6, and the cast wants to do a season 6. Nickelodeon knows this. We have been talking about it for a long time. I put together a proposal about what would happen in season 6. It is now up to Nickelodeon if it happens or not. I don't control it, Nickelodeon does. If they decide to do a season 6, they will tell me, and as soon as I know, I will tell the fans on my social media. Meanwhile, until I know something, I won't say anything about it, because I simply don't know. I don't want to jinx it by speculating, and besides, nothing is real until the ink dries and the ship has sailed, as Big Bob would like to say." The fans once again began to show their support by signing petitions that season 6 would air on Nickelodeon, continuing the story that the Jungle Movie left off with, Arnold reconnecting with his parents and newfound relationship with Helga. They were hoping that Nickelodeon would respond with a yes, just like they did with greenlighting the Jungle Movie. But unfortunately, on 13th of August 2018, Hey Arnold composer Jim Lang was being interviewed by a host of a podcast called Tunes, and stated this at the end.
Nickelodeon decided after we did the Jungle Movie that they were not going to make a season 6 of Hey Arnold, but they said because they didn't feel like it was right for the Nickelodeon audience as they perceive it right now. And I think, you know, when you look at the numbers that we got when the movie premiered, in your age group, we totally killed.
Yeah.
You know, we were like number 3 that night, you know, millions and millions and millions of viewers. With the Nickelodeon, you know, with their audience, not so great. You know, we're down like 11th or 12th or something like that. So they decided, now we're not going to do it. But Netflix and Amazon, Apple were all people that they were going to go out to with the idea of trying to make a season 6 of Hey Arnold. But
yeah,
that'd be cool. Haven't heard anything yet, so we just got our fingers crossed.
So hearing that, they then started petitions for Hey Arnold Season 6 to appear on Netflix, knowing that an older fan base who grew up with Hey Arnold would gravitate there as opposed to Nickelodeon. Meanwhile, a few weeks later, on the 28th of August of 2018, at the 17th Primetime Creative Arts Emmy Awards, Stu Livingston, one of the storyboard artists and co-directors of the Jungle Movie, won an award for Outstanding Living Achievement of Animation. He was the only one representing the Jungle Movie alongside other juried animators who had worked on other animated shows and specials from Adventure Time, The Simpsons, Steven Universe, and more.
I worked on Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie, and I really credit my supervising director, Raimi Muskies, our art director, Jerry Richardson, and most of all, our creator, Craig Bartlett, for just really guiding me through that whole process. I grew up as a huge fan of Hey Arnold, so to get to co-direct this movie and earn an award for it is like completely surreal to me and a huge honor. So I have a lot of to thank Craig for that. Yeah.
Then, Craig had announced a massive DVD set for Hey Arnold called Hey Arnold The Ultimate Collection will be coming out on the 28th of November. It had contained all 100 episodes of Hey Arnold, both Hey Arnold the movie and the Jungle Movie, the Hey Arnold pilot, and some bonus content including the claymation short Arnold Escapes from Church. Unfortunately, Hey Arnold will be very slow in the next coming months due to various reasons, one of which will be the major changes for both Nickelodeon and Viacom.
It all started around October 2018, when Netflix had hired Momita Sengupta, who oversaw production at Comedy Central, MTV, VH1, and Spike, as vice president of physical production for their original series, and Viacom wanted to sue them for quote-unquote poaching their employees. So it looked like Viacom weren't going to be making any deals with Netflix anytime soon. Yeah, we'll get to that later. Meanwhile, a major shakeup was occurring at Nickelodeon and Viacom. Brian Robbins, the head of the studio Paramount Players and the co-creator of all that, was named the president of Nickelodeon, replacing Seema Saragami, who had been president for over a decade starting around 2006. With Brian as the president, a lot of people were replaced with their positions. Chris Viscardi, who was the senior vice president of content development and Nickelodeon franchise properties, will be replaced by Ramsey Naito on November 6, 2018, and would later be promoted to president of animation on September 1, 2020. On July 22, 2019, Jenny Wall became the chief marketing officer of Nickelodeon, and Erica Samiro, former senior vice president of creative affairs and executive producer of Klasky Chupa Productions and former creative chief officer of Zodiac Kid Studios, became the senior vice president of Nickelodeon Preschool. Camille Eden, the former talent acquisitions manager for Disney Animation Studios, became the vice president of recruiting and talent development in late January 2020. Around the same time, former Fox executive Darlene Camano-Loquette became the senior vice president of Nickelodeon Movies, and former 20th Century Fox TV vice president of casting Liz Paulson became the senior vice president of Nickelodeon Animation casting and talent development. You get the gist. Shortly after the premieres of Static Cling and Enter the Florpus on Netflix, a slew of other Nickelodeon shows from the 90s and early 2000s were announced of getting reboots, movies, or specials. A Clarissa Explains It All reboot, a Rugrats reboot, and a live-action/3D hybrid film, a live-action film based on the preschool show Dora the Explorer, an Are You Afraid of the Dark 3-part special, a TV special based on the Broadway musical SpongeBob the Musical, a third SpongeBob movie, and a revival of Legends of the Hidden Temple for adults on a new streaming site called Quibi. Yeah. Let us have a moment of silence for Quibi. Thank you.
Well, that was quick and uneventful. Quite fitting, actually. Moving on.
One of the biggest events that shook up Viacom, in addition to the new management at Nickelodeon, was that they had announced that they would be merging with CBS. Some weren't surprised because Nickelodeon and Nick Jr. had their programs featured on CBS.
So you heard? Nick, the first kids network is coming to CBS, and we're bringing Hey Arnold, the Wild Thornberries, as told by Ginger, Pelswick, Dora, and Blue's Clues. Oh yeah, and you. It starts September 14th. See you there.
The reason why was because Viacom and CBS merged in September of 1999, when Summer Redstone's National Amusements Inc. had a $40 billion deal. It wasn't until June 2005 when National Amusements had announced that they were going to split the companies into two once again. The process of trying to merge Viacom and CBS again started around over a decade later on December of 2016 when Sherry Redstone, the vice president of both companies, had proposed it. But she had to pull back due to Viacom CEO Bob Bagish wanting Viacom to remain as an independent company and fighting hard for the company's prominence. Then they tried again 2 years later in January 2018, shortly after AT&T had merged with Time Warner and after Disney had purchased 20th Century Fox. Long story short, on August 13, 2019, they had finally agreed to merge, with it being finalized on December of that same year. Wow, Backish, so much for trying to keep Viacom an independent company, am I right? Some people believe that the merger was a great idea and that it would crush the competition, while others felt that it was a big mistake and should have sold off Viacom years ago as opposed to saddling it with CBS. So with all that said, how did it turn out for them? I mean, wow, it really backfired on them really badly. So yeah, remember when we talked earlier about Viacom wanting to sue Netflix for quote-unquote poaching their employees? Well, they changed their moods on that company really quick because 1 year later, on November 2019, Viacom had made a multi-year output deal with Netflix after the successes of Rocko's Modern Life Static Cling and Invader Zim Enter the Florpus. They would integrate their old shows for their nostalgia-hungry audience, as well as introduce it to a younger audience who had never seen them. A prime example on how this worked so well for Nickelodeon was with the release of both Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. When they premiered on Netflix, they were extremely popular and had gotten a massive resurgence again. Avatar: The Last Airbender was staying around the top 10 on Netflix for 60 days, shattering Netflix records, and became a major talking point for many news articles and podcasts.
I love this show. It's hard for me to talk about it in a coherent way because I love it so much and I just get so excited about it. Glenn, like you were saying, the creature design in this show is so good. I mean, really cute, like turtle ducks and Momo the lemur and Appa the flying bison. I mean, these are creatures that are really cute and cuddly and definitely made for kids to want a stuffed animal. And then you have the face stealer and you have the kind of design of the Fire Nation and their ships. I mean, every sort of detail in this show really expresses a love for kung fu and for martial arts, for East Asian culture. There's just so much in it that I related to and respect. It's fun and goofy too, and it can be really complex and emotional and then make you laugh in a second because of a goofy joke. There's a lot of good humor and the characters all relate well to each other. And the first time I watched it with my brother, who's 4 years younger, we both looked at each other and were like, oh my God, we're Sokka and Katara. Like, that is how we interact with each other.
The show sort of starts off with like, okay, he's a young kid. He is happy-go-lucky. He's trying to, just have a good time. They're trying to pull him towards their responsibilities. And he's like, nah, I want to just kick it and have fun and do all this stuff, even though I know I eventually have to do this big thing. As the show goes on, I guess, and maybe this is because I've been going to therapy for the last couple of years, but one of the things that jumps out to me was how much, like, they really write Aang as an avoidant person, right? Like, there are all these things in front of him that he is actively trying to not deal with, right? Because, he feels all this obviously tremendous guilt because he's the lone survivor of this genocide. It resonated with me so much more this time around. Whereas like when Toph is trying to teach him how to earthbend, right? And she's like, the thing you have to do is face the thing head on, right? She's like, you can't dance around it. You can't avoid it. All the things that you are inclined to do because this is who you are, this is not going to help you through this thing. And it just sounded so much like a session with my therapist. I was like, oh my God. It was like, oh my, the show is written for 10-year-olds,
The other thing about the show is that conceptually it's so satisfyingly simple. Such a brilliant idea to marry different styles of martial arts to different disciplines, to have the four elements used to either dictate or reflect how characters act, who they are, what their personality is, how they move, what their philosophy is. And the animation is really fluid. It really straddles the line between a very traditional, very recognizable American style with a very profound anime influence. It's fascinating to me how much this show wears its influences on its sleeves, not just martial arts stuff, but, anime stylization, and especially in how it deals with spiritual themes and iconography. There's so much Miyazaki in this show. Mm-hmm. And speaking of spirits, in case you were wondering, second time through, the face stealer that he meets in the swamp in one episode is just as much a nightmare fuel as it was. Terrifying. I love this show. I can't wait to go back and watch it again.
They even brought in a few Nicktoons exclusive on Netflix, such as Pinky Malinky and Glitch Tex. In addition to the Netflix deal, Viacom had already released their shows on Hulu, Pluto TV, Verve, Amazon Prime, iTunes, and YouTube. While some people like that a lot of these classic Nickelodeon shows are widely available, others have complained that the shows and movies should be consolidated into one streaming service, just like what Disney Plus did with their lineup of shows. But we'll get to that later.
There was another major factor that had prevented the further movements of the sixth season, and it had nothing to do with management changes or company mergers. There was also, the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
AKA the coronavirus. Yeah, this virus was a major devastating attack in our country, not seen since the Spanish flu over 100 years ago in 1918. It's been a terrible epidemic to us all, and we hope that you continue to stay safe during these trying times. However, this didn't stop Craig for continuing to create Hey Arnold content, starting around April of 2020. He would be drawing and or getting still images of Arnold and Helga writing letters to each other about their quarantine experiences at home and posted on Facebook and Instagram. He would also post videos of him singing songs of Hey Arnold and even his PBS preschool show Dinosaur Train with his guitar.
Fans absolutely loved these drawings, seeing how Arnold and Helga's relationship being trapped in the home in quarantine, then writing romantic letters to each other, to finally getting to their date at Slausen's for an ice cream. Patricia and I even did a segment on the discussion on Arun and Patricia on whether the drawings were canon to the series. But here's the thing about this, though. The fact that these are all little stories that are coming about Hey Arnold, that are coming from his social media account, and he is actually the creator of the show. I mean, can we say all of what he's doing is canon right now?
That's a really hard question because, I mean, we've talked over the years about fan fiction, about when we were doing, parts 1 and 2 of the pros and cons of the Jungle movie. We were saying about like, okay, if you were disappointed with the Jungle movie, you have to remember that this is not fan fiction. This is somebody that some person wrote by themselves, and this is their interpretation. But the fact that the man himself, Craig Bartlett, wrote about this, I mean, we even said in that episode that we already know from the beginning that Arnold and Helga are soulmates. They're meant to be together, and we already saw snippets of it from the series, and it was confirmed in the Jungle movie. So I take it that because as of right now there is no season 6, and I'm sure that people want to crave on what is Arnold and Helga's relationship like now that there is no certainty that there is going to be more stuff to come. So I take it that Craig, with all of his creativity, he's the kind of guy who would draw on, pictures on his Instagram. He would be, like singing songs and, all this kind of creative stuff. So he's like, yeah, I mean, I think it'll be really interesting to see, what it would be like if Arnold and Helga were together. So I would say yes. I think it's canon.
So I think that's going to make a lot of people happy, I think, if we come to that conclusion. But I mean, like, I wonder also as well, I wonder if Craig is also kind of like doing this to possibly even say to Nickelodeon, like, hey, there's far more story here that we can work with. And also it's far more it's also very relatable to everything that's going on right now. Obviously, like, I mean, I don't know, like, obviously, if we did go right here on season 6 and they decided to do or frame it in the context of the coronavirus, I mean, like, we might not be in the situation in a year's time, like, by the time the whole show's been produced. So, like, it might become very dated very quickly. But, I hope Nickelodeon, in a way, is also paying attention to this, because this is actually getting a lot of traction, I think, from a lot of fans and things like that, but on his Instagram account. And so I'm hoping that maybe they might take a look at that and think, something, maybe Hey Arnold probably might still have something to offer us, in regards to more stories that they can potentially tell us. And even if it's not going to go on on Nickelodeon, at least we can probably do something for Netflix, so.
Yeah. On May 12th, Craig was invited for an interview with Mariano Carrazza from the media company Great Big Story on a live stream Q&A on Instagram. He also did autograph Hey Arnold digital drawings for proceeds to fight racial injustices during the Black Lives Matter movement. But the biggest Hey Arnold news broke out around June 8th, 2020, when Craig had announced that the first volume of the show's soundtrack was going to have a limited release on vinyl record, courtesy of Enjoy the Rides Records sublabel Enjoy the Tunes, who had also released a limited edition of the vinyl record version of the Best of Nicktoons soundtrack. The limited release included 350 Arnold Swirl records, 500 Yellow Locket records, and 150 Helga Tricolor split records. When it was released on July 3rd, it sold out in 45 minutes. Yeah, you heard me, 45 minutes. Craig and composer Jim Lang were absolutely shocked that the record sold out this quickly, and had promised another press release of vinyl records for those who missed out the first time. And that they did. A few months later, on October 8th, Craig had announced the second press release of the Hey Arnold Volume 1 soundtrack vinyl records to be released the following day. This time, it contained 300 Gerald Tricolor split records, 600 Transplant Yellow records, 250 Nicktoons Orange Inside Clear records, and a very small limited edition Yahoo Soda liquid-filled records. There was even a cool blue vinyl version sold exclusively at Urban Outfitters. When it was released, it sold out, get this, in 6 minutes. Yeah, 6 minutes. Unfortunately, as of the recording of this video, the Enjoy the Tunes and Urban Outfitters websites state that all of the vinyl records are completely sold out, with no way of purchasing them. There are some records online for purchase on sites such as Amazon and eBay, but they're now super expensive. So until they do a third press release or release it digitally on Spotify, you can get it, but with extreme caution.
One staple in the Hey Arnold calendar was definitely the 2020 Hey Arnold anniversary show. Me and Craig Bartlett once again talked about Hey Arnold, about the vinyl records, also about how Dan Butler was cast to be Mr. Simmons, amongst other things, including Jungle Movie, Hey Arnold Season 6, the Patakis, stuff that we could put into fan fiction, and also some Rugrats questions as well. If you want to check out the full episode, the link is in the description.
Going back to Viacom CBS, they had announced they were going to put their own TV shows and movies onto CBS All Access to ride on the success of Disney+. In addition to the programs on CBS, it would include other Viacom channels such as Comedy Central, MTV, VH1, BET, and yes, Nickelodeon. Many classic shows from the 90s and 2000s have made it into CBS All Access. Clarissa Explains It All, The Ren and Stimpy Show, Rugrats, Chalk Zone, Danny Phantom, and of course, Hey Arnold. The final update for CBS All Access, as of the making of this video, is that it'll be rebranded with a new name called Paramount Plus, where they will include more TV shows and movies exclusive to the streaming service. As for whether Viacom CBS will put all of their eggs into this basket or continue to spread it around to other streaming service is unclear at the moment, but we'll see what happens in the future. Well, that's pretty much it with all the updates regarding about the Jungle Movie, a season 6 of Hey Arnold, and the major changes with Viacom and with Nickelodeon. But before we conclude this video, some closing thoughts. 2021 is rapidly approaching, and as you've seen from this video, Viacom, CBS, and Nickelodeon have been going through some major changes. While we haven't heard any new announcements from Craig or from Nickelodeon about Season 6 of Hey Arnold, or even any other iteration of the show such as a spin-off series, seriously, Viacom, CBS, if you really did cancel that Ren and Stimpy reboot, try bring back the Patakis, wink wink. The fans are giving their overall support to make sure that we will get one. But I feel that, in my opinion, time might be running short for 90s nostalgia. At least on Nickelodeon. If you've been following the Nick Rewind YouTube channel or any of their social media pages, they've been posting a lot of content regarding about 2000s Nickelodeon live action shows such as Zoe 101, Nest Declassified, Drake and Josh, Victorious, and iCarly. In fact, an iCarly reboot has been announced for the new Paramount Plus streaming service featuring the old cast. This coming July of 2021, it would have been 10 years since the 90s Are All That block first started. I know, it's hard to believe, isn't it? The kids who were born in the late 90s or as early as 2000 are in college now, or graduating from college, and are feeling the same nostalgic notions of looking back on their favorite childhood shows like we 90s kids felt many years ago. While there will still be shows and movies from the 90s coming back, I feel that a new wave of nostalgia will be coming in, and shows from Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney Channel from the 2000s will be shown more prominently. I mean, look what happened to Avatar: The Last Airbender. But luckily for Hey Arnold, it still has a leg to stand, since the show ran until 2004, so it will cater to the 2000s nostalgic-hungry crowd as well. But whether Nickelodeon and Viacom CBS see it as viable to bring Hey Arnold back, it's still uncertain. But from what we've seen with the fan petitions, fan arts, fan fictions, and purchases of the vinyl records, I think we will see our favorite football-headed kid and his friends return real soon.
My final thoughts in regards to Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie, the pros, the cons, and the aftermath basically wrap up to this. I'm really glad that we actually did get the Jungle Movie after several years of campaigning for it. It basically answered the questions that we were all asking about, and also it gave us back Arnold's parents, who are now currently living with him in the boarding house. I feel like it was a fitting ending to all the drama that we've been put through in regards to the TV series. In regards to the cons, and yeah, I believe there are quite a few significant cons. Some things in the Jungle Movie I definitely would take issue with, and also the actual whole release and the way that Nickelodeon dealt with it obviously is a massive issue in that regard. The best thing I could hope is that Nickelodeon will learn their lessons for the future, and the next time that they take beloved properties, they will be releasing them in the best way. I mean, for example, like a lot of people right now really love The Loud House, but let's say The Loud House disappeared for about 20 years. I mean, do you think it would be appropriate like in 20 years' time to then re-release The Loud House without actually educating the fans about what actually the Loud House actually is, and basically only their parents would basically know what it is, I think that probably would not be the best way going forward. Basically, you would release it onto the formats that the adults at the time would have been familiar with and what are familiar with now. And then, obviously, you could then educate the people on the Loud House later on and potentially do reboots for it. But in regards to Hey Arnold, this was not done, and all I can hope is that Nickelodeon will learn lessons for the future. But in regards to the Jungle movie being released, my goodness, what an amazing feat that we've gone through. The fact that the fans were so passionate enough to campaign for this to happen, and then it finally happened, and now we have a DVD that sits on our shelves or a download that sits in our iTunes folder. This, for me, even though critically and ratings-wise it wasn't all that great, but in regards to me as a Hey Arnold fan, this was a huge success, and every Hey Arnold fan should pat themselves on the back.
So yeah, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for being so incredibly patient, waiting for part 3 of this long retrospective about Hey Arnold the Jungle Movie. We started off with the history of Hey Arnold the Jungle Movie, the pros and cons, and finally this video concluding it with the aftermath. I know it took a lot longer than I wanted to put all this stuff together, but due to the fact that there was so much news and announcement going left and right, I didn't want this video to be dated with a bunch of comments saying, oh, you missed this and this and that, and oh, can you make an update putting in this information? So I wanted to wait, knowing that the news was just going to calm down a bit, and I can be able to finally put this topic to close. So I hope that the wait was worth it, and I just want to thank Aaron for coming into this video and putting in his own 2 cents on it. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me once again.
So we hope to see you around soon. Happy holidays, and thanks for watching.